What's happening, people? And once again, welcome back to youtube.com/CubCamTV for this, another edition of Cubreacts, as we jump back into album review mode. Very excited to get into today's conversation. We're going to be taking a look at the brand new project from Platnumz. Of course, it goes by the name First of All. It's a brand new EP, 10 tracks in total, I believe, and it's getting a lot of international support already. Now, obviously, Platnumz is one of the most popular artists in the world on a global stage. He's someone who is very, very high up on the kind of listenership ratings, and just in general, someone who a lot of people do kind of look up to in regards to just taking their sound worldwide. So we're going to basically dive into the project, have a little look at the overall feel of the project, the overall kind of rating, break down each individual track as well, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this. Obviously, we may get into a couple more individual reactions as well, but I felt with the kind of overall feel of the project, I thought it'd be quite good to get the album review done first, and then maybe look at individual ones maybe on the Friday show at the same time. As always, then, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you're getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right hand side of the page, turning notifications on, leaving a like, leaving a comment, and all of that good stuff. Now, with these reviews, we do like to break down each individual track as well. Obviously, we're just talking, there's no sort of audio in the background. We're going to try and keep these very sort of quite swift in the way we break them down, but also quite analytical at the same time. So first of all, in regards to the artwork, I really like how the artwork looks on this one. It's got a real kind of touch of finesse about the way it's been put together. The dark green and yellow feel works really nicely as well, and just in general, as you can see when we bring it up on screen, there's something very kind of, I don't know, classy about the way it looks, whether it's the kind of orange against the backdrop. It just looks quite enjoyable, and I do feel kind of album artwork is becoming more and more important in regards to what you remember the album for, because obviously music videos are a big deal now. They're a big deal of how you remember a tune, and I feel album artwork can be just as important if you play it right, and I think this is a very good look at how you can do that. Interestingly enough, though, about the actual track listing for the tune itself, no Giddy across the whole project, which I found very interesting to see. I genuinely thought Giddy was going to be on there, considering it was released, I think, 2 weeks before. But again, nothing on there. No Giddy, pretty much. I'm pretty sure it's 10 tracks. 10 tracks that I haven't heard before. Maybe a couple of them have been released and I just completely missed them. But overall, it looks like a very brand new project. And obviously, we've seen other projects before. Obviously, Boy from Tandale as well, one of like his big feature albums. But this feels like it's quite a moment. And it's definitely being described as his debut EP rather than an album as well. So that's something to note about this. 10 tracks is a big EP. But obviously, an album, you're looking at sort of 16, 17, 18. So yeah, it's very interesting how it's all kind of been put together. But when we get into the actual track listing itself, I have got notes in front of me. I did listen through the entire project a couple of times, made a load of notes, just so I'm not doing this off the top of the head. I want to make sure these reviews are as analytical as they can be. But opening up with Melody, a very, very solid collaboration. Again, we have reacted to this one on the channel. You can check it out on the page. But in general, this was a wicked way to open up the project. It opened up my ears instantaneously. Obviously, the actual instrumental layered with wicked horn structures, and of course, the additional vocal talents of Jay Wills. This one, super catchy. The hook is quite literally just a hummed melody, but it works really, really nice, and it just sticks in your head straight away, which is a brilliant way to open up a project. Have something that sticks in your head straight away, you're in the money immediately. Great way to kick things off. And it continues to layer new elements in there throughout, including that chorus block, which just appears throughout the verses in the background, very subtly though, it has to be said. Collabing is actually a big part of this project. I feel a lot of the high points are the collabs, as you'll see later on as we go on, but this is a solid way to kickstart the project. So coming up next, we do have 2 solo tracks, however. First up, Somebody, which is another kind of sweeping combination of styles. A lot of kind of Moog sounding bass lines, obviously from a Moog synthesizer. Very reminiscent of kind of like 90s and 80s bass lines in a lot of the way they've been put together. But again, minimal sort of snare crunches as well. The actual arrangement of this one is quite stripped back, but those are the 2 things that kind of stick out in regards to sort of individual timbres that cut through the mix overall. But yeah, over which these we actually hear Platnumz let loose a very kind of catchy vocal performance, again utilizing very solid performance skills, and of course bringing those vocal melodies which always seem to catch. That's a solid theme that runs throughout the heart of this project. There's a lot of catchy vocal melodies, whether that's been done intentionally or whether it's just what Platnumz naturally does when he's in the studio, I don't know, but it works either way. And again, a solid second track of these 2 first solos on there, with Fine, then arriving with a much more delicate feel, again taking a melody. The interesting thing about this one is it takes a melody from a very famous, quite bright tune, which is of course Sean Kingston's Beautiful Girls. However, I quite like what Platnumz has done with this. He's flipped it and basically done the "We are these beautiful girls," such a catchy melody to begin with, but then kind of reworks it into saying, despite how beautiful everyone else is, the actual lyricism is about finding one person attractive rather than everyone, despite how attractive everyone else is. So that's quite a cool kind of way of flipping that as a kind of idea, lyric-wise. But then moving on to one of the sort of centerpieces next, I do feel, again, there's a huge collaborative factor about this one, but again, there is a language barrier, so actual lyric-wise, I'm not really able to break it down. Matasaburi, I believe it's how it's pronounced, alongside Zuchu. It's being widely seen, as I said, as the centerpiece for the project, as we hear Zuchu's vocals provide a fabulous display of both delicacy and precision. Now, there's a lot of auto-tune on the vocal, however, you can still hear those vocal kind of techniques and maneuvers working away underneath, the sort of fragility of a vocal that gives it quite a humanized feel, despite how much sort of electronic influence there is on the vocal at the same time. I really like the thing about this, that they very much harmonize each other. They're constantly going over the top of each other's vocals, giving it a real sort of soundscapey live performance feel, and I think that works really nicely in giving this one the power. This is the one that's attracting the most views as far as I'm aware. Obviously, Zuchu's doing fantastic things on her ones anyway, so this was a cool link up to see on this project. We then get into another big collaboration, which is possibly my favorite track on there, alongside the one and only Adekunle Gold. It goes by the name Sona. Again, a wicked link up this one. We have reacted to it, and it is available to view on this channel if you want a more in-depth breakdown of this one. But again, you hear Adekunle's very sort of typically R&B style approach leak across the entire tune. It's just sort of naturally imposed as you move forward. Really smooth backdrop. You've got these sort of plucked guitars, very minimal sounding drum textures, and sort of percussive hits in there as well. Again, it's got such a typically kind of Adekunle Gold feel to it, and I think it does work really nicely. Some really good call and respond over the chorus on this one as well. Again, a big tune. The first sort of selection on here works really nicely. It's such a solid start to the project, and this is probably my favourite one so far. Loyal then follows, which takes a slightly more sort of hard-hitting run with the drums that are being used. Very bouncy drums, very hard-hitting bass notation as well on the lower ends of the frequencies, with Platnumz providing a very solid vocal performance. Although for me, this is the first time on the album where things start to get slightly repetitive. I feel this is it's a solid tune. It's a tune that if it was released standalone, it would probably do really well. But I feel with this one, it's where we're starting to hear things we've already heard, and it just doesn't feel that refreshing. Again, if this was standalone, it will sound great. But because it's mixed and coming straight after those 5 very unique sounding individuals, I don't know, for me this one slightly falls flat a little bit. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do let me know in the comments down below. And again, I'm not saying it's not a solid tune. It's just in comparison to the 5 previous, this one falls a little bit below the radar. But again, that's a testament to the consistency of the overall project, to be honest with you. Moving forward then, Wonder then strips back the production style for a much more organic sounding arrangement, focusing on very skippy production, very traditional sounding rhythms as well, and those guitar flicks that work really nicely, just injecting a bit of colour into the harmonic structure of the tune. It gives us a big, very heavily harmonized chorus as well, which kind of almost lifts the project back up into this sort of newer, fresher kind of sound. Despite the fact the sound sounds very kind of old school and very nostalgic, it has a very kind of refreshing wash over the top of it. Again, Diamond Platnumz providing a very cool vocal hook on this one. Nawaza then follows. Again, sadly for me, this one falls into a similar bracket as Loyal. Again, there's nothing particularly about it that I dislike. It just feels like it isn't very fresh. It feels like it isn't very new. It just feels like I've heard it before. Again, if it was if this was a standalone tune, I think it would do very well. And I think this is almost like a feel that I'll come to later on, which is the project almost feels too consistent at 2 moments, and this is the second one of those moments. Just it feels a tad fillery more than anything else, which you have to have on albums every now and then, but this would be my second kind of lower point so far. The highlights though would definitely be the heartfelt vocal and of course another catchy hook. Again, standalone it would slap. Just in the context of the album, for me, it just falls a little bit flat. We then move into 2 collaborations to round off the 10 tracks. First up, Oka alongside Mbosa. Again, this one injecting a fabulous sense of energy against scattered rhythmic layers, utilizing unique percussive patterns and smile-inducing woodwind lines, which really just add, again, a sense of color and kind of fun to the tune more than anything else. A kind of, almost like a childish kind of joy you hear when you hear the kind of woodwinds work through, and it works really nicely nicely. And then finally, a dance floor ready roller to round off the funner side of the project. It definitely feels like a fun project, not like the deepest project in the world. Again, I may be misinterpreting a few things, but it feels like a project which is meant to kind of put a smile on your face rather than be the deepest of thinkers of project, for me anyway. But yeah, on this final tune, we see Vocalistic, Kostatic, and Pabby Cooper, all arrive on fresh. Again, an Amapiano inspired arrangement that works really nicely. Not a typical Amapiano tune by any means. You've got different sorts of sounding bass sounds, different sounding melodies in there, but it does work very nicely, and it's everything you want from such a prolific lineup of artists. Constantly moving through different verse phrases atop a constantly shifting backdrop of unique drum sounds and metallic bass flicks that works really nicely. And that is the final track of the project. So 10 tracks. Again, for me, I think the high points are probably the final track, Fresh. I think Sona with Adekunle Gold is solid. Obviously, the collaboration with Zuchu is solid as well. And I also really like the first two tracks. I think the project opens up really nicely. Somebody obviously going solo, and then obviously the sounds of melody with Jay Wills as well. They would be my highlights. A couple of lower points, but overall, the project just feels almost too consistent at times, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just feels like sometimes we're getting a bit too much of the same thing, but overall a very, very solid release. The high points are great. It's a consistent kind of 8.5 the entire way through, and it drops down to around like a 6.57 on a couple of tunes, but overall a very solid collection of originals that I hope you have enjoyed as much as I have. But there we go. Hopefully you have enjoyed this technical analysis and breakdown review of the project. Let me know what your thoughts are on the album in the comments down below. Again, I have written out notes. I try to make sure we do these reviews properly. The journalistic side in me tends to come out when we do them as well. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the album, whether you agree with the review or whether you feel there are other tracks that should be more highlighted. Are there any tracks that kind of let you down? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's get some conversation going about it. And yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed. As always, if you did enjoy, please make sure you are getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right-hand side of the page, turning notifications on, leaving a like, leaving a comment, all that good stuff. And we shall see you all next time, my friends. Peace.
Sounding so good right now. But they're sounding a bright and town.
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now, CubCamTV. Stay locked.